You guys will never believe what happened. I'm Sarah, living in this quaint, tree-lined neighborhood in the coastal town of Seabrook, chasing my dream of becoming a novelist who weaves stories from the sea's whispers. Today's my 18th birthday, and I was supposed to spend it alone, curled up with my notebook, but a chilly night led me to Ezra's doorstep, the retired bookstore owner next door with this silver hair, warm blue eyes, and a voice that could calm a stormy sea. I showed up late, claiming I was cold, and when he offered me a blanket, I grabbed his hoodie instead. What started as a quick visit turned into something electric, something neither of us could ignore. Want to know how it went down? Keep watching, because this story's all about one night that burns brighter than the fire in his living room. Like and subscribe for more. Sarah's 18th birthday had felt like the opening line of a novel. Her new adulthood, a blank page ready for bold words. Seabrook, with its salt-weathered cottages and whispering pines, was her canvas for the summer. Her rented attic room, a cozy haven of notebooks, ink pens, and the briny scent of the sea drifting through a cracked window. Her latest story, a tale of a shipwrecked dream, pulsed with her restless energy. Its prose vivid, mirroring the daring stirring in her heart on this milestone day. Turning 18 had sparked a fearless curiosity, a hunger to chase what scared her. But as the evening turned chilly, her apartment's thin walls let the cold seep in, and her thoughts drifted to Ezra, the retired bookstore owner next door, whose quiet kindness had become a light she couldn't ignore. At 67, Ezra was a former bookseller whose gentle charm had caught her eye since she moved to Seabrook a year ago. His silver hair was swept back, his warm blue eyes carried the depth of years curating novels, and his hands, steady from turning countless pages, moved with a quiet grace that felt like a well-read story. His evening, Sarah, in passing, paired with a reserved smile, had felt polite but distant, like a book on a high shelf. She'd chalked it up to gratitude for a neighbor who'd lent her a rare copy of Wolfe, who'd shared bookstore stories over porch coffee, but her just-turned-in boldness, amplified by her birthday, drew her to his door when the cold became too much, a spark of daring flickering in her chest. The evening was brisk, Seabrook alive with the rustle of leaves and the distant crash of waves, the air thick with the scent of salt and pine. Sarah had been scribbling by candlelight, her birthday marked by a single cupcake, when the chill drove her to action. Wrapping herself in a thin sweater, she crossed the yard, her sneakers crunching on gravel, her heart pounding with nerves and excitement. She knocked softly on Ezra's door, the amber glow of its living room spilling through the windows, promising warmth. Ezra opened the door, his flannel shirt open at the collar, his smile kind but surprised, his blue eyes catching hers in the porch light's glow. "Sarah," he said, his voice a soothing hum, like a storyteller calming a tempest. "It's late. Everything all right?" She shivered, her voice light but charged. "Just cold," she said, her hazel eyes glinting with gratitude and a bolder spark. "It's my 18th birthday today, and my place is freezing. Can I steal some warmth for a bit?" Her just-turned-in confidence pushed her forward as he gestured her in, his gaze lingering on her wind-touzled hair. He nodded, his smile softening. "Happy birthday," he said, stepping aside. "Come in, get warm. I'll grab a blanket." The living room was a cozy refuge, its walls lined with bookshelves stuffed with novels, poetry, and faded journals, their spines glowing in the firelight. A stone fireplace crackled, casting amber shadows across a leather couch by a rain-streaked window. A record player spun a soft jazz tune, Miles Davis. Smooth and soulful, its notes weaving through the air, mingling with burning cedar, the faint scent of old books. In Ezra's Colin Burr, warm and grounding. Ezra reached for a wool blanket on an armchair, but Sarah's eyes caught a navy hoodie slung over the couch, its fabric worn and soft, carrying his scent. Ignoring the blanket, she grabbed the hoodie, slipping it on before he could protest, the oversized sleeves swallowing her hands, the amber scent enveloping her. "This'll do," she said, her voice teasing but deliberate, pulling the hoodie tighter around her, her hazel eyes meeting his with a playful challenge. The firelight danced across her face, amplifying the moment, her plan forming as the warmth sank in. Ezra's breath hitched, his eyes flickering to the hoodie, then back to hers, his voice low, cautious. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah," he said, his tone steady but strained, like a bookseller guarding a rare manuscript. "It's late, and you're making things complicated." He stood by the fireplace, his hands in his pockets, the firelight casting shadows across his silver hair. She stepped closer, the couch between them, the hoodie loose on her frame, her smile bold but soft. "Then why does it feel like I should?" she said, her voice a mix of defiance and truth, pulling the hoodie tighter, the fabric brushing her skin. Her just-turned day-teen courage pulsed, the living room shrinking to just them, the jazz melody, a soft heartbeat in the background. Their conversation began cautiously, the fires crackle a soft rhythm as they settled on opposite ends of the couch, mugs of tea steaming on the coffee table. They spoke of small things, her birthday, his latest read, but the undercurrent of her bold move lingered, charging every pause. Sarah's mind drifted to flashes of their past interactions, each a page in their story. She recalled their first meeting, when Ezra had welcomed her to Seabrook with a nod from his porch, his book in hand, his eyes lingering as he complimented her notebook's scribbles. Another memory surfaced a summer afternoon when he'd invited her for coffee, sharing a story about a rare book find, his voice warm as she teased him about his old typewriter. Then there was the quiet moment when he'd read her story draft, his hand brushing hers as he pointed to a line. His voice soft. "You've got a novelist's soul, Sarah." A more recent evening flickered when she'd lingered at his gate, returning a borrowed novel, his gaze holding hers as he said, "You see things others miss." Each memory carried a spark she'd tried to dismiss, blaming his reserve on neighborly distance. But now, in his hoodie, the air felt electric, like a story ready to unfold. The conversation deepened, the Miles Davis record a soft undercurrent as the clock ticked past midnight. The sea's hum a quiet pulse through the window. Sarah opened up more than she'd planned, the intimacy of the living room loosening her guard. She spoke of her writing, how it felt like capturing a moment's soul before it slipped away. "It's like I'm trying to hold on to something fleeting," she said, her voice soft but fervent, her fingers brushing the hoodie's cuff, its fabric grounding her. "I want my stories to make people feel alive, like the sea at night." Does that sound too ambitious? Her hazel eyes met his, searching for the man behind the reserved smiles, her dangerous desires stirring under his steady gaze, urging her to push beyond the casual. Ezra nodded, leaning forward on the couch, his hands close enough that she could feel their warmth, a quiet strength like a well-turned page. "Not too ambitious," he said, his voice low, resonant, like a bookseller narrating a rare tale. "Your stories have that spark, Sarah. I read that draft you shared alive, like a wave you can't forget. It's magnetic." His words were measured, but a new weight lingered in them, a hesitation that made her pulse quicken, her curiosity flaring like a sentence finding its mark. She tilted her head, the couch creaking softly, the scent of tea mingling with the cedar from the fireplace and the amber of his cologne. "Magnetic?" she teased, her voice playful but edged with daring, her hazel eyes locking on his, their blue depths reflecting the firelight like a polished cover. "That's a big word for the neighbor who just writes in her attic. You sure you're not just being kind because it's my birthday?" Her dangerous desires pushed her forward, the living room narrowing to just the two of them, the jazz melody, a soft heartbeat, the sea's hum a quiet backdrop. He chuckled, setting his mug on the table, his eyes holding hers a moment longer than usual, a flicker of something unguarded in his gaze. "I'm not that kind," he said, his voice warm but tinged with a quiet intensity, like a bookseller revealing a hidden chapter. "You're not just the neighbor, Sarah. You've got this. Fire in your stories, in the way you carry yourself. You show up here, in my hoodie, and it's hard to pretend this is just a visit." The jazz notes swelled softly, curling around them like a gentle wave, the air heavy with the scent of amber and the weight of their moment, the firelight casting golden flecks across the room. Sarah's mind raced, weaving through more memories that deepened their connection. She remembered a spring evening when Ezra had stopped by to share a book on maritime myths, lingering to discuss her latest story. His voice warm as he said, "You see the world like a poet." Another moment flickered, a fall afternoon, when he'd helped her carry a box of books to her porch, his hand brushing hers, his smile brief, but carrying a warmth that lingered in her chest. There was the time he'd paused at her door, admiring her draft of a shipwreck tale, his voice soft as he said, "Your work stays with me, Sarah." And a quiet moment last week when he'd leaned over the fence, his eyes catching hers as he said, "Do you make Seabrook feel like a story?" Each memory was a page, tightening the narrative between them, but pulling her closer to the edge of something bold, her heart pounding with the possibility that his reserve was hiding a deeper tale. The conversation stretched on, the firelight a soft rhythm as the clock ticked past 1 a.m. The seas hum a quiet pulse in the background. Sarah shared more than she'd intended, her dangerous desires loosening her tongue. She spoke of her fears that her stories might go unread, her dream to create words that lingered like a memory. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm chasing something impossible," she admitted, her voice softer now, her fingers brushing the hoodie's hem, its texture grounding her. "But when I write, it's like I'm alive in a way I can't explain." "Do you ever feel that way about books?" Her eyes searched his, her heart seeking not just connection, but a glimpse of the men beneath the bookseller, the sea's hum echoing her pulse. Ezra leaned closer, his elbow brushing hers on the couch, the contact sending a spark through her like a sentence hitting the perfect note. "Every time I find a book that moves me," he said, his voice low, resonant, like a bookseller sharing a private passage. "Your shipwreck story did that, Sarah. It's not just words, it's, poured onto the page. That kind of fire, it's rare." His words carried a new intensity, a crack in his reserved facade, and the air between them shifted, the firelight amplifying the moment. Her plan gaining momentum like a story, finding its climax. She tilted her head, her smile teasing but deliberate, the firelight catching the curve of her cheek. "Rare?" she asked, her voice playful but pointed, her hazel eyes glinting with mischief. "That's high praise from the guy who's read every book in Seabrook. You sure you're not just humoring me because I stole your hoodie?" Her dangerous desires pushed her forward, the living room narrowing to just their shared space, the jazz melody a soft pulse, the sea's hum a quiet witness. He laughed, a warm, low sound, his hand shifting closer on the couch, his eyes holding hers with a new depth, like he was reading a story he'd long avoided. "I don't humor anyone," he said, his voice warm but edged with something raw, something real. "You're not just the neighbor, Sarah. You've got this presence, this spark that makes people stop and read. You show up on your 18th birthday in my hoodie, and it's hard to pretend this is just about the cold." The seasy hum mingled with the jazz notes, the air thick with the scent of amber and the weight of their moment, the firelight wrapping them in its glow. "Hey guys," Sarah said, her voice bright but laced with mischief. As if speaking to her imaginary audience, her eyes glinting as she leaned back, breaking the tension for a moment. "We're about to get into this spicy portion of the story, so please don't forget to like and subscribe." She grinned, the words a playful nod to her daring, but her heart pounded as she shifted, leaning closer to Ezra, her shoulder brushing his on the couch, the contact sending a spark through her like ink hitting a blank page. She pulled the hoodie tighter, its fabric brushing her skin, and met his gaze with a quiet challenge. "You said I shouldn't be here," she said softly, her voice charged with truth, her hazel eyes unwavering. "But it feels like I should. Tell me I'm wrong." The moment held the silence electric. The jazz-recorded distant hum as the living room narrowed to just them, the couch, the firelight, the sea's silver shimmer, casting shadows like a spotlight. Her heartbeat quickened, her breath steady but charged, her dangerous desires carrying her forward like a bold stroke across a page. She'd come for warmth, but now wrapped in his hoodie, her plan was unfolding. The air alive with possibility, the firelights crackle a rhythm to their unspoken dance. Ezra's gaze softened, a slow smile tugging at his lips. His voice low, strained but warm, like a story finding its perfect ending. "You're not wrong, Sarah," he said, his eyes flickering to the hoodie, then back to hers. A spark of something unguarded breaking through his reserved demeanor. "You've got this way of pulling people in, making them see the world through your stories. I've been trying to keep things simple to stay the neighbor, but you're making that impossible." Her smile widened, her heart soaring, the tension a living thing between them, pulsing like the firelight's glow. "Maybe I like making it impossible," she said, her voice teasing but honest, leaning closer, her shoulder brushing his, the contact electric, sending a shiver through her like ink spilling across a page. "Maybe I don't want you to stay just the neighbor anymore." Her eyes locked on his, the jazz notes swelling like a cue, her plan unfolding in the charged silence. He laughed, a low, warm sound, his hand resting on the couch, fingers brushing hers, the touch sparking a fire in her chest that felt like a story coming to life. "Your trouble, Sarah," he said, his voice rich with amusement and intensity, his blue eyes twinkling with a warmth she hadn't seen before, like a bookseller uncovering a hidden novel. "I've been trying to keep my distance, to keep things neighborly, but you show up on your 18th birthday in my hoodie, and I'm supposed to stay composed? You're rewriting every chapter I've got." Her breath caught, the living room shrinking further, the firelight framing them like a final act on a stage. Her friend's warning echoed faintly. "He's just being polite, Sarah. Don't read into it," but her friend was wrong. This was real, raw, and electric. A moment written in bold lines. "Maybe I like rewriting chapters," she said, her hand pressing lightly against his, the touch grounding her like a page under a pin. "What do you want, Ezra?" "Now that I'm here, in your hoodie, on my 18th birthday." He leaned back, his smile slow, deliberate, his eyes tracing her face like he was reading a rare manuscript. "I want to see where this story goes," he said, his voice soft but weighted, like a bookseller unveiling a hidden tale. "You're bold, Sarah, bolder than I was ready for. You show up here, with that spark in your stories, in your eyes, and you're turning my world upside down. I'm not sure I want to stop you." The air was thick with possibility, the jazz record fading to a soft pulse, the living room alive with their shared moment. The seas hum a quiet rhythm in the background. Sarah's dangerous desires pushed her forward, her heart racing with the thrill of her plan coming to life, the intimacy of the living room amplifying every glance, every word. "You're making it really hard to keep this neighborly," she teased, her voice a mix of playfulness and truth. Her hazel eyes locked on his, her courage holding her steady like a pin in her hand. He chuckled, his fingers curling slightly around hers, the touch warm and electric, like a spark in a quiet bookstore. "Neighborly's overrated," he said, his voice low, rich, carrying the weight of their moment, the firelight casting a golden glow across his face. "What do you want, Sarah?" "Now that you're here, in my hoodie, at 2 a.m. Her heart pounded, the memory of his words echoing, the spark of his touch still warm on her skin. What did she want? The solitude of her attic, the quiet birthday she'd expected, or this hymn, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her heart, as vivid as her stories. "I want to keep this," she said, her voice steady now, her eyes locked on his, her hand pressing against his. the contact grounding her like a finished story ready to be read. This feeling, this moment, his smile widened, his eyes twinkling with warmth and intensity, like a bookseller seeing a story come to life. That's a bold choice, he said, his voice soft but charged. The jazz record's final notes fading into silence, leaving only the faint crackle of the fireplace and the sea's gentle hum. But I've always been a fan of bold. The living room was still, the firelight a golden glow reflecting their moment like a perfectly crafted page. Ezra's hand lingered near hers, the air alive with possibility. The tea mugs and blanket on the couch forgotten like props left on a stage. The sea outside hummed, its rhythm a quiet witness to their connection. "Good night, Sarah," he said, his voice soft but heavy with meaning, his eyes holding hers as he stood, offering her a way out, but leaving the door wide open, the firelight casting long shadows behind him. "Good night, Ezra," she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her heart pounding as she stood, the spark between them brighter than the firelight's glow. She walked to the door, Seabrook's rhythm soothing, the sea's hum a soft applause in the night. As she leaned against her door frame, her heart ablaze with the thrill of what might come next, still wrapped in his hoodie. She knew her dangerous desires had turned her 18th birthday into a spark, leaving only a daring new chapter, one fearless word at a time.